The
Is
sandwich
that
was
for
nothing
me?
special,
Yes, take it.
just two
Wow,
slices of
thank
stale
you.
white
You're
bread,
welcome. I'll open
a
it
thin
later.
layer of generic peanut butter, and a smear of grape jelly. It cost maybe 50 cents to make, but to the girl on one side of the fence, it was her
Here
entire
you go.
lunch.
Thanks.
And
I
to the
was
boy on
starving.
the other
No
side,
problem. See
it
you
was the
later.
only thing
Bye.
keeping him alive. Victoria was 9 years old. She had scraped knees, braided hair held together with red ribbons, and a stomach that often growled by midday. Her family lived in a cramped apartment in the south side of Chicago, where the heating only worked when it felt like it. But she had something that couldn't be bought. She had eyes that saw people. Really saw them. Isaiah was 10. He was a ghost. A pale, shivering skeleton of a boy who had slipped through the cracks of a broken foster care system. He had been sleeping behind the school dumpster for 2 weeks, wrapped in nothing but a torn windbreaker and old newspapers. He watched the other kids play tag, his vision blurry from hunger. He didn't ask for help. He was too scared. He just sat by the rusted chain-link fence, waiting to fade away. Until Victoria walked up to the wire mesh, looked him dead in the eye, and pushed her lunch through the gap. She didn't say a word that first day. She just waited until he took it. When he finished, crumbs sticking to his chapped lips, he whispered a thank you that was carried away by the wind. He told her, with a fierce, childish intensity, "I'll marry you when I'm rich." She laughed, a bright sound like bells, and tied one of her red ribbons around his dirty wrist. 22 years vanished. Before we unravel how destiny brought them back together, welcome to Kindness Valley. We believe that stories like this heal the soul. If you believe in the power of a promise kept, please take a moment right now to like this video, leave a comment below, and hit that subscribe button. Your support helps us share more love with the world. Isaiah Mitchell stood at the window of his penthouse on the 45th floor. The glass was cold against his forehead. Below him, Chicago was a grid of golden lights, a city he now practically owned. He was 32 years old, the CEO of Mitchell and Associates, and his net worth was sitting comfortably at $47 million. He had everything a man could want. He had a garage full of cars he rarely drove. He had a closet full of Italian suits tailored to the millimeter. He had the respect, or at least the fear, of every competitor in the state. But the silence in his apartment was deafening. It wasn't a peaceful silence. It was a heavy, suffocating weight. There were no family photos on the mantel, no laughter echoing from the kitchen. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the wind howling against the glass. Isaiah turned away from the view and walked to his desk. It was made of mahogany, solid and expensive. He unlocked the top drawer with a small brass key he kept on a chain around his neck. Inside, resting on a velvet cushion within a glass case, was a red ribbon. It was frayed now. The vibrant crimson had faded to a dull brick color, stained with the dirt of a homeless childhood and the passage of 2 decades. But to Isaiah, it was more valuable than the building he was standing in. He touched the glass. "So where are you?" he whispered. It was a ritual. Every morning, before the coffee, before the emails, before the board meetings, he asked the universe the same question. He had hired 3 different private investigation firms. He had spent 5 years searching. But Victoria Hayes was a common name. There were thousands of them. And the specific Victoria Hayes from the South Side, the daughter of a factory worker and a cleaner, had vanished from the records after her family was evicted in 2008. The trail was cold. His phone buzzed on the mahogany desk, vibrating like an angry insect. Isaiah sighed and picked it up. A notification flashed. South Chicago Community Town Hall, 7 p.m. Topic: Mitchell Development Project. His CFO, Richard, had told him not to go. "Send the lawyers, Isaiah," Richard had said. "So those people are going to be angry. They don't want gentrification. They'll eat you alive." Usually, Isaiah listened. He stayed in his ivory tower. But tonight, something pulled at his chest. A physical ache. It was the same neighborhood. Lincoln Elementary was only 3 blocks from that community center. He hadn't been back to those streets in 20 years. The trauma kept him away. But tonight, the pull was irresistible. He grabbed his coat. He checked his pocket to make sure the key to the desk was safe. Then, on an impulse he couldn't explain, he took the glass case with the ribbon, slipped it into his inner suit pocket, and walked out the door. The drive was a journey through time. As his sleek black sedan merged off the highway and into the neighborhood, the scenery changed. The luxury high-rises faded into brick row houses, some boarded up, some with flower pots in the windows trying to fight the gloom. He remembered the smell of the asphalt here. He remembered the fear of sleeping in doorways. He parked a block away from the community center to avoid drawing attention to his car. The wind bit at his face as he walked, the famous Chicago wind. And for a second, he was 10 years old again, freezing to death. He entered the hall. It was a gymnasium that smelled of floor wax and old coffee. About 50 people sat on metal folding chairs. They looked tired. These were people who worked 2 jobs, who rode the bus for hours, who fought for every inch of ground they had. When Isaiah walked in, wearing a suit that cost more than most of their cars, the room went silent. A woman at the front, Dorothy, held a microphone. "We are here to talk about the new high-rise plan," she said, her voice sharp. "But it looks like the developer actually decided to show up." 50 pairs of eyes landed on Isaiah. There was no warmth in them, only suspicion. Isaiah walked to the front. He didn't take the microphone. He just stood there, hands clasped. "Good evening," he said. "I'm Isaiah Mitchell. I know you're worried I'm here to push you out. I know you think I'm just another rich guy looking for a tax break." "Aren't you?" a man shouted from the back. "No," Isaiah said. "I'm building mixed-income housing. I'm guaranteeing that 60% of the units stay at the current neighborhood rental rates. I'm not here to make a profit on this one. I'm here to give back." "We've heard promises before." A voice cut through the air. It wasn't a shout. It was a strong, a controlled, powerful voice. Isaiah turned toward the middle row. A woman stood up. She was holding a stack of files. She wore a simple beige blazer, and her hair was in natural twists, pulled back professionally. She looked exhausted, but her eyes were fierce. "Mr. Mitchell," she continued, staring him down, "I'm a social worker in this district. I see families displaced every day by generous developers. What happens when your board changes its mind in 5 years? What happens to my clients then?" Isaiah looked at her. Really looked at her. Time stopped. The gym faded away. The noise of the crowd turned into a dull roar underwater. He knew those eyes. He knew the set of that jaw. He knew the way she held her hands, protective and strong. He took a step forward, ignoring the crowd. "What is your name?" The woman blinked, and taken aback by his intensity. "That's not relevant to the question, Mr. Mitchell." "Please," Isaiah's voice cracked. The CEO mask fell away. He sounded desperate. "Please, tell me your name." "Victoria," she said slowly, frowning. "Victoria Hayes." Isaiah felt his knees go weak. He had to grab the edge of the podium to stop from falling. It was her. It was really her. She was older, sharper, worn down by the system she fought against, but it was her. "Victoria," he breathed. "Did you go to Lincoln Elementary? In '98? Victoria's posture shifted. She took a step back, confused. "Yes. How do you know that?" Do you remember? Isaiah started, tears instantly filling his eyes, blurring his vision just like the hunger used to. Do you remember a boy? A boy who lived behind the fence? The room was deadly silent now. Oh, everyone was watching. Victoria stared at him. She squinted, looking past the expensive haircut, past the tailored suit, searching for something in his face. Then she saw his eyes. The same blue-gray eyes that had looked at her with terrified gratitude 22 years ago. Her notepad slipped from her hand and hit the floor with a loud slap. Her hands flew to her mouth. "Isaiah," she whispered. "I promised," Isaiah choked out, tears running down his face in front of 50 strangers. "I told you I'd come back." "Oh my God," Victoria sobbed. She moved out of the row, stumbling over a chair. Isaiah met her halfway. He didn't care about dignity. He didn't care about the board meeting. He wrapped his arms around her, and she collapsed into him. They held each other in the middle of that gymnasium, the two survivors clinging to the only wreckage that mattered. "You're alive," she cried into his shoulder. "I thought you died that winter. When you disappeared, I thought the cold took you." "You saved me," Isaiah whispered into her hair. "You kept me alive long enough to get found." Dorothy, the woman with the microphone, wiped a tear from her eye and tapped the mic. I think we're going to take a 15-minute recess," she announced softly. Isaiah and Victoria sat in the small office at the back of the gym. The door was closed. Isaiah poured her a cup of water with shaking hands. "I looked for you," Isaiah said. "For 5 years. I hired investigators." "We moved around," Victoria said, wiping her eyes. "After my dad got sick, we lost the apartment. We bounced between shelters and relatives in Detroit for a while. I only came back to Chicago 4 years ago to take this job." "Why this job?" Isaiah asked. "Social work is hard. It doesn't pay enough." Victoria smiled, a sad, beautiful smile. "Because of you, Isaiah. I never forgot the boy behind the fence. I realized that there were thousands of kids just like you. I couldn't save you back then, really save you, so I decided I would spend my life trying to save the others." Isaiah reached into his pocket. He pulled out the glass case. "You did save me." He opened it and took out the ribbon. Victoria gasped. She instinctively reached for her neck. She pulled out a silver chain from under her blouse. Attached to it was a small, cheap plastic locket. She popped it open. Inside was the other half of the ribbon. "I kept it," she whispered. "See, it was the only thing I had to remember you." "I told you," Isaiah said, his voice steady now. "I told you I'd marry you when I was rich." Victoria let out a wet laugh. "Isaiah, stop. We were children. You don't owe me anything. You certainly don't owe me a marriage." "I don't feel like I owe you," Isaiah said, leaning forward. "I feel like I've spent 22 years missing a part of my soul, and I just found it sitting in a folding chair in a gymnasium." "You're a billionaire," Victoria said, shaking her head. "I'm a social worker with student loans and a beat-up Honda. We live in different worlds." "Then let me change worlds," Isaiah said. "Let me take you to dinner. Not as a thank you, not as a debt payment. Just let me get to know the woman who grew out of that little girl." Victoria looked at him. She saw the hope in his eyes, the same hope she had nurtured with peanut butter sandwiches all those years ago. "Okay," she whispered. "One dinner." That dinner turned into coffee the next morning. Coffee turned into long walks by the lake. Isaiah didn't try to impress her with money. He didn't pick her up in a limo. He drove his modest SUV. He listened to her talk about the broken foster care system, about the kids aging out with nowhere to go, about the lack of funding. He fell in love with her. Not the memory of her, but the reality of her. He loved her passion. He loved how she got angry at injustice. He loved how she laughed when he tried to explain complicated stock market trends. And Victoria fell for him. She saw that the money hadn't corrupted him. It had only isolated him. Underneath the suit, he was still the sensitive boy who just wanted to be safe, and who wanted everyone else to be safe too. 3 months later, Isaiah showed up at her office. He looked nervous. "I have a business proposition," he said. Victoria sighed, looking up from a mountain of paperwork. "Isaiah, if you try to give me a check for my rent again, I will kick you out." "It's not for you. It's for them." He placed a thick binder on her desk. The cover read, "The Red Ribbon Initiative." Victoria opened it. She scanned the first page, then the second. Her eyes widened. "This is a comprehensive support system for youth aging out of foster care," Isaiah explained. "Housing in my buildings, rent-free for 2 years, full tuition scholarships, job training in my company, mental health support, and a starting budget of $15 million. Victoria looked up, stunned. $15 million? "I can't fix the whole world, Victoria, but I can fix this corner of it. But I can't run it. I don't know these kids. I don't know their hearts. You do." He knelt down beside her chair. "I want you to be the executive director. You run it. You hire the staff. You save the kids. I'll just write the checks and get out of your way." Tears streamed down Victoria's face. "You listened to everything I said." "I always listen to you," he said. "You're the only voice I really hear." They worked side by side for a year. The Red Ribbon Initiative became a beacon of hope in Chicago. They helped kids like Marcus, a 17-year-old who had been sleeping in the library. They got him an apartment, a welding certification, and a therapist. Isaiah saw Marcus smile for the first time, and he felt a healing in his own heart that money had never bought. One evening, a year and a half after their reunion, Isaiah organized a gala for the initiative. The ballroom was filled with donors, politicians, and, most importantly, the kids they were helping. Victoria was backstage, nervous about her speech. She was wearing a deep red gown that Isaiah had bought for her, the color of the ribbon. Isaiah walked in. He looked dashing, but his hands were shaking. "You okay?" Victoria asked, straightening his tie. "You're the CEO. You shouldn't be nervous." "I'm not nervous about the speech," Isaiah said. He took a deep breath. "Victoria, come here." He led her to the curtain where they could see the ballroom, filled with laughter and music. "Look at that," Isaiah said. "We did that. You did that." "We're a good team," Victoria smiled, leaning her head on his shoulder. "The best," Isaiah agreed. He turned to face her. "Victoria, 23 years ago, I was dying. I was cold, and I was alone. You didn't just give me food. You gave me a future. Every day since then, even when I didn't know where you were, I was trying to be worthy of that sandwich." "Isaiah." He reached into his pocket. He pulled out a small velvet box. He got down on one knee right there in the backstage wings, amidst the cables and the dust. "I told you I'd marry you when I was rich," Isaiah said, his voice thick with emotion. "And for a long time, I thought rich meant money. But looking at you, looking at what we've built, I realize I wasn't rich until I held your hand again." He opened the box. Inside was a ring. It wasn't a diamond, and it was a custom-made band of platinum with a thin, intricate inlay of red rubies running through the center like a ribbon. "Victoria Hayes, my savior, my best friend, my conscience. Will you marry me?" Victoria didn't laugh this time. She cried. She dropped to her knees so she was eye level with him. She took his face in her hands. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, Isaiah. 1,000 times yes." They walked out onto that stage engaged, and when they announced it, the applause from the kids who finally had a home, was louder than any thunder. They didn't get married in a cathedral or a banquet hall. They got married 6 months later at Lincoln Elementary School. It was a crisp autumn day, much warmer than the one where they first met. They set up white chairs on the asphalt playground. The fence, that old, our rusted chain-link fence, was still there. But it didn't look like a prison anymore. Isaiah and Victoria had asked their guests, the billionaires, the social workers, the foster kids, to bring one thing: a red ribbon. Before the ceremony, everyone walked up to the fence and tied a ribbon to the wire. Thousands of them. They fluttered in the breeze, a wall of crimson hope, symbolizing promises kept and lives connected. As Victoria walked down the aisle, the sun hit the ribbons, and it looked like the fence was on fire with love. Isaiah stood at the altar, weeping openly as his bride approached. She wasn't just the girl who fed him. She was the woman who taught him how to love. They exchanged vows. Isaiah promised to never let her go hungry for love. Victoria promised to always be his safe place. After the ceremony, as the music played and the guests cheered, Isaiah and Victoria walked over to the fence for a quiet moment. They stood on opposite sides, just for a second, reenacting the moment that saved them. Isaiah reached through the fence, not to take food, but to take her hand. "We made it," he whispered. "We did," she smiled. Just then, a small movement caught their eye. A little boy, maybe 8 years old, was watching them from the edge of the playground. He was wearing a coat that was too big for him, and his eyes were wide and hollow. He looked hungry. Victoria squeezed Isaiah's hand. She didn't have to say a word. He knew. They didn't turn away. They didn't get in their limousine. Isaiah reached into his pocket and pulled out a granola bar he had saved for a snack. Victoria grabbed a bottle of water. Together, in their wedding clothes, they walked over to the boy. Isaiah knelt down, ruining his tuxedo pants on the pavement. He held out the food. "Hey, buddy," Isaiah said softly. "I'm Isaiah. You look like you could use a friend." The boy took the food, his hands shaking. Victoria knelt beside them. She untied a red ribbon from her bouquet and gently tied it around the little boy's wrist. "We've got you," she whispered. "You're safe now." As the camera pulls back, we see the three of them: the billionaire, the social worker, and the lost boy, framed against the wall of red ribbons. The cycle of pain was broken. The cycle of kindness had begun again. Because a promise isn't just words, it's action. It's a sandwich. It's a ribbon. It's a choice to love when the world is cold. End screen visuals: a photo of the real Isaiah and Victoria holding their new baby, named Hope. He's standing in front of the Red Ribbon Center. Thank you so much for watching Kindness Valley. If this story touched your heart, please don't let the feeling end here. Go out today and be someone's Victoria. Share your lunch. Share your time. Share your smile. You never know. The person you help today might change the world tomorrow. Please subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss a story, and share this video with someone who needs a reminder that good people still exist. I'm Your Name, signing off. Remember, be kind, always.